Okay, what this is telling me is this can't even draw fuel. This type of pump should be able to draw fuel, and it's not currently doing that. Hi there, folks, and welcome to another episode of Michael's Backyard Marina. I'm Michael. Well, we were this is going to be I don't even know what the title this series should be, because I bought an old, let's call it early to mid to late 70s Rinker. It's a 70 to 78 according to the serial number on the engine. I have nothing else to go on because there's no paperwork, no anything else to go by. But the goal is to strip that motor out of that boat eventually once I get it running and put it into another boat. And follow the series. This will be part 2. Follow the series and you'll see it all the way to the end. My goal is by August 9th. It sounds like a long ways away, but it's going to creep right up pretty darn fast. I'm going to have that engine out of the boat and into another boat, a bigger boat, a cooler boat, a boat that's ready to go in the water, other than, let's just call it the outdrive's not there. Okay, well, next step in this series is we pulled the carburetor off, and it's pretty dirty, it's pretty nasty, pretty complete. So let's dig in. I'm going to show you how to rebuild these Mercruiser 165 horsepower carburetors, and we're going to get it back on the engine and hopefully make it run. All I got left to do on the engine is check spark. I do want to change the oil out, and because we did turn it over last video, and we do have compression, really good compression, and the starter switch and everything was working, so I think we can make it run. So hang in there. If all goes well in this video, we'll see it running. If you saw a clip at the beginning of this video that saw it running, then you're going to see it run. And follow this little bit of the series here to see how I made that happen. Let's start tearing apart this carburetor. Now, carburetors can be intimidating for some. They're actually quite simple. There's not a lot of complications going on in these 70s, Rochester 2 jets. First thing I do every time I take a carburetor apart is I take a picture of the linkage setup from multiple angles, because inevitably, or whatever that N word is, you forget how some of these linkages go together. You possibly could. The super smart guy with a super duper memory, it's not an issue for him. For me, it is. So let's take apart the top of the carburetor first. I'm gonna grab my little bowls. I like to have my little pans here to collect all the parts in, and kind of the sequence that I took it apart. So the first thing I'm gonna do is take this automatic choke off. And I know this one here, you see somebody tried to do some adjustment with some of these screws tight or snug, and you'll chip this out every time. Because these screws have a little, even when you think they're loose, they're not completely loose and not biting, because these little things here, they're curved and they help bite in and hold things in place. That's all there is to that. See, there's a gasket there. Behind that is a little tin shield where the heat comes up through here. It warms up everything inside. It makes this little bimetal spring do its growing and shrinking and whatever it does in between to move the choke flap. Inside here is another little screw, flat blade. It holds on a little piston. We're going to go ahead and take that out too. This has a little piston in it. Be careful not to lose that pin. It goes in from one side, it's blind on the other. As you can see, it's already trying to wiggle its way out. We'll set that right there. Then once you got that out, you can take your Phillips screwdriver and go ahead and take this housing off. Wasn't very tight at all. It's okay. You see those 2 screws that were in there? Set that all aside for cleaning. I like to keep that as one little grouping of parts myself. As you can see, there's a gasket here that's going to be pretty much come apart in pieces. Now we can take the top part of the carburetor off, and we can actually undo some linkages here, because this linkage has got to come off with the top part of the carburetor, and also there's another one right back behind here that can come off. And it's a little bit more of a difficult one because it's the linkage and everything, and the screw is hidden behind this arm. But once you get this arm out of the way, it's not a problem. This is why I like those little magnetic trays, because it keeps you from losing all these little delicate pieces. Let's see if we can get this pushed out of the way here. See, now it exposes this screw. See, now all the linkages are separate from one another. We can go ahead and proceed to take the top of the carburetor off. Now, I don't recommend using an impact gun unless you know what you're doing. Definitely do not use it to tighten things up. But for the interest of the video, this makes things go a lot faster. This screw right here that I just took out of here, you'll notice is longer than the rest. Whoops, rest of them are the same length. Top of the carburetor with the float and accelerator pump and pin all come off together. We'll flip that upside down there for a minute. As you can see, this thing was so dry in here. This piece here is stuck. It should be floating. It is not. So there's no way this thing was going to run for sure on and the way it was, without just dumping raw fuel down the carburetor. We'll get into some more detail on the functions of some of this carburetor, which I want to share with you. If you watched all my videos from the Cobalt carburetor rebuild, you can skip past this part. You already know it. But if you want to refresh yourself on the intricacies of what's going on inside this little piece here, keep watching. Because right now we're just getting it tore all the way down so that we can soak and clean it. As you can see, there's a little red gasket on this one right here because that needs to seal things up, and that'll be in your carb kit. We'll put that gasket back on the screw as a reminder as to where it goes. Now this part you want to be careful on not to break anything. You don't want to pry too much, but it's going to be stuck down pretty good. You're just trying to break that seal. And there is no, I don't know of any good technique. There we go. She just popped loose. And don't just keep prying once she pops loose. You want to work this thing out gently because there's some fragile stuff on the other side of it. You don't want to bend all those tubes and all that fun stuff. There's a gasket in here that's going to come apart in literally just pieces. This is fully apart except for getting the gasket off of it and soaking it and cleaning it and making sure all these tubes are clear, all these passages are clear. There's one little T-bar in here, I call it. that you want to pull out. It has a spring ball behind it. Come on. It's obviously going to be stubborn. There's another spring back here. And there should be a ball in there too. I don't see it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this out of here very easily. There it goes. So that little T-piece right there, pull that out. There's going to be such a tiny little spring behind it. So small. It's a little check ball for your accelerator pump. If I turn this over, I should get that ball should come out of there. Well, I didn't see it come out. I didn't hear it come out. Huh, yeah, it did right there. What's the odds of it coming out of there and landing in that screw hole? That was weird. But that's the ball that goes right behind that spring. You want to get that out because you want to make sure everything's clean behind it. Next thing you got left is your two jets. There's two jets down in here. Look just like that. Get my big screwdriver to see if I can get that power valve out. That little guy right there. She's pretty corroded, pretty nasty. We'll see how well it cleans up. There is a little gasket that sits behind this guy. I just like to stick some of this stuff back on to remind me where's what. Now we can flip it over. We can move the bottom part of the carburetor and these air mixture screws. Normally I'd bottom these out to see where they were sitting, but I don't care because I'm gonna start them out at 1.5 from bottomed out anyway. They look pretty decent. Last but not least, we can pull screw out there and one here and here. That separates the bottom from the rest. You got a gasket here as well. So I want to go ahead and scrape all the gaskets off of everything. The other thing I'm going to do here is slide these back out of our way. I'm going to go ahead and pull the float off. This has been sitting a long time. There won't be any water in the float or gas. We got this big gasket here. It actually might come off in one piece here. I'm not going to reuse it, but it's just nice to have to compare to your new gasket kit. Now when it comes to this joker here, it's kind of nice to take a picture of this little assembly because it is, you know, unless you know what you're doing, and I'm doing it here. This one I can put back together no problem. But I like taking a picture of the assembly to get an idea how it looked before I took it apart. Because here I like to take this accelerator pump here and go ahead and back this screw off. Then I can take this apart. Slide this piece all the way out so you get everything good and clean. You leave that together for now. The kit will have a new accelerator pump. This one is toasty. And this should be kind of floating in there. I'm gonna see what happens after I soak it. I'm gonna go ahead and take this off as well. That's where your fuel filter's at. Now you can hear a spring in here. And take note of how this comes apart. See that screen that's in there? That's going with the opening toward this. If you go the other way, it's just gonna plug up your hole. And there's a spring here that just keeps that tight up against there. And there is a little gasket in there. So we'll set all that aside. Now we're ready to soak and clean the carburetors. Now I'm gonna try a different method to clean this carburetor. Normally I soak this in like a Berryman's carb cleaner, which is pretty strong. It'll actually strip the paint right off the outside of the carburetor as well, plus take care of everything else. But I wanted to see if there's another way, and I want to try an ultrasonic cleaner. I picked one up the other day. Here it is. It's nothing fancy. It was pretty inexpensive. It does heat up. It's called a Kamashi. I got it off of Amazon. It's a Digital Pro. You can set the temperature and you can set the time in minutes and seconds. So, and you definitely don't want to run the unit without any liquid in it. If you run it without liquid, it says in there you will mess up a seal that's in here and you'll actually destroy the unit. It comes with a basket and a little ball valve that you can open it up and drain what's in it back out to clean it. And it also has a lid. It also had a little tiny basket. I'm talking a little tiny guy. So you can put like jewelry and you know, let's call it microscopic parts in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and set all the carb parts in here. And I want to see if it'll clean out all this nastiness that's in here. And it's there again, it's just we're gonna try it. I don't have a lot of confidence that it's really gonna clean the carburetor as well as I want, but I'm also gonna try some very mild detergent to start with. I'm starting off with just some Simple Green, mixed about 6-to-1 with water, and we'll try that out first. And if that don't work, I might get some actual carb cleaner, ultrasonic carb cleaner, and we'll try that next. They claim that this is a 6.5 liter thing. I've got 2 liters of liquid here. I'm just going 50-50 with Simple Green and water. Well, for this to be a 6.5 liter unit, I claim that this was 2 liters. I just put 2 liters in it. Oh, 6.5 liters, duh. I gotta have more of this. Okay, we got it mixed at about a 6-to-1 ratio. We're gonna turn the power switch on in the back. Beep. We can set the temperature. That's a lot of beeping. I'm gonna go full on 60 degrees C here. That's on. Looks like a maximum of 30 minutes. It's making buzzing sounds. We'll check back in on it after a bit. I see what it says here is 60 degrees is the temperature I set it at, and the actual temp is there at 20. I don't know, first time using ultrasonic cleaner, we'll see how it does. All right, we ran some parts through this ultrasonic cleaner, and we started off with about 1 liter of Simple Green. We added 5 more liters to it, maybe a little more, and it's still warm in here. Actually, the parts don't look too bad. Just need a good rinsing. There's still some debris on here, but it's loosened up pretty good. I think I'll take this inside and we'll rinse her off and with some hot water and just see how things look. I don't think it did too bad a job. Loosened up the gasket, so the gasket's going to come off a lot easier. That's nice. Most people have said, why didn't you scrape that off beforehand? Well, I just didn't. We're kind of testing things, right? Then most of that gasket came off, so that's going to clean up pretty easy. Actually, I've tried scraping gaskets off before doing some soaking and stuff, and yeah, they're stuck pretty good. Let's just say that. This don't look too bad. I think I'm going to carry this inside and rinse it off, and we'll be back. But I will tell you a little something about this thing. You can set it at 60 degrees. It's still holding at 40 right now. You've got a maximum of 30. You can't go past 30 minutes. It did take 2 cycles. The first cycle got it up to 46C. And then I did another back-to-back cycle with it, another 30 minutes, and left it set at 60, and it got to 60 for sure on the second cycle. And then I ran a third cycle at 60. And this is the results. And I think I can, you know, it's not like a scrubbing brush, but it loosens everything up. I think it's all going to rinse off pretty easy, and we'll go from there. As you can see, there's still stuff in there. Obviously, this is going to be pretty warm. What the heck is that? Oh, little rubber feet on the bottom of this little basket. Obviously, they just fall off. This basket could have a finer mesh, which would be nicer for some smaller parts. But overall, my first experience with an ultrasonic cleaner, I can't say I'm completely disappointed, and I can't say I'm completely happy. Because I know when I soak, look at that, you can see the stuff just sitting on the surface here. But let's go rinse it off before I make my final call. All right? All right, I'm not trying to turn this into an ultrasonic cleaning commercial, but I'm curious. And as most of you out there, you might be curious too. So what I want to do, now that I've ran the whole carburetor through the ultrasonic cleaner, all the major components and some of the minor components as well, I'm wondering how clean is everything, which it looks pretty clean, and we'll get to that in just a second. But I thought, well, I stole one of my wife's coffee filters, and I'm going to see if I can drain this thing and see how, try to catch it, because I want to reuse it. The hose that came with this and the fitting that came with this does not fit. Oh my goodness. Not going as planned here. I just want to see if I can catch. Coffee filter might be a little too fine. All right, the nice thing about this drain is it does drain fully because it's the holes in the bottom of the pan, and below it's an elbow, I'm sure. But this was a white coffee filter. I know that this doesn't really look that dark and black in here, but after it sat overnight, I want to show you what's in here. That's black, and that's a lot of sediment in there. That's a lot of scum that it took off. So I'm pretty pleased with that. And that's easy enough just to wipe off. And that's what I'll do next, is just try not, whoop, let's not do that. But that was quite a bit of nasty in there. So I'm just going to wipe this out. Get it ready for next go round. Alrighty, we got the parts cleaned up pretty good. That ultrasonic cleaner actually did strip paint, mainly because the paint's just old. But it actually did a pretty good job. I cannot complain. Once I blasted it off with my pre-rinse sink. And the nice thing about using Simple Green, folks, is that it's a pretty safe solvent or safe degreaser. It don't have any harsh chemicals, and I'm not sure. And I think I heard back it's been many, many years ago, maybe a decade or two. I'm not sure how long Simple Green's been around, but it's been a while ago that I understand Simple Green was made by a guy that had a buddy of his got killed in a cleaning chemical accident of some sort. So he created Simple Green. You guys can fact check, Google fact check that for me, but that's what I remember hearing. And so I've always used Simple Green ever since. A lot of times, you know, you got Grease Lightning, you got all these other kinds of degreasers, but when I'm calling it mild grease, you know, like a carburetor like this and stuff, and things you're cleaning off, it seems to work really well. The stuff I buy, it was in a concentrate, so I had to think really hard when I used it. But that bottle I had here, now this bottle just has water in it now, but makes up to 5 gallons, and it's reasonably priced. So I thought, well, let's try that first in my ultrasonic cleaner to see what it, how well can it work? Because, you know, I've been skeptical about ultrasonic cleaners, just something that goes, and it's like, you know, compared to a power washer or, you know, some really foaming stuff and a scrub brush. But I gotta say, I don't hate it. I do have another chemical coming that I ordered. Won't be here till next week. I'll try it on another carburetor, but to kind of compare it, and hopefully I'll have that comparison in this video, because this video is about getting this carburetor apart, putting it back together. Then we're going to get back in the boat, get this mounted back on the boat, get the fuel system pumping, and then we're going to check for spark. And you bet your bottom dollar, if everything goes according to plan, this video, you will see it running. And you probably, at the beginning of the video, because I haven't started editing this one yet, I'll put a little clip of it running as a teaser so you guys can see what I did to get it running. Because what I'm doing to this boat, you'll be able to do to any inline 6 or 4-cylinder Mercruiser and have a reasonable chance of success if you do all the stuff I'm doing and have the similar results to what I'm having, you know, like having good compression, having a carburetor that's salvageable, not completely junk. And what happened? My battery, what? Sorry about that. But the GoPro is currently going, and I've got a couple of these battery, you know, fans that I have to use to blow on the GoPro in my 72.5 degree shop to keep the GoPro from overheating, because it's an action camera and what I'm doing is not action, according to it. I feel pretty active. All right, I got a new fan on my action camera. Anywho's, where was I? Golly, squirrel. But anyway, we'll see if we can get this thing running, and this video is the goal. And once I get it running, do a couple of heat cycles on it, I'll be ready to pull that engine out of the boat, put it on one of my engine stands in the shop temporarily while I strip the rest of the components off of that boat, and then I'll get old Big Blue. It will go under the knife. We'll fire that engine back up again. It probably hasn't been fired up now in probably 2 years. But, you know, I left it in good condition. It should, and I've kept it covered since. We should be able to fire it up, because I'm pretty sure I didn't use the fuel tank on it. I ran it out of a gas can, well, just like I'm going to do this one. The other thing you guys may have noticed is that when I pull this apart, and this is where the fuel inlet comes in, it's a pipe thread that's supposed to be there. Somebody had actually done a fairly decent job of soldering a piece of tube on it with a ferrule on it for a hose barb, and that's what I'm going to use for now. I know that you're supposed to have hard lines all the way to the fuel pump, and I will have that when I put it back in the boat. For now, we're running off rubber lines because what we're doing now is not currently permanent other than making it run. Now, let's take a closer look at some more of these parts here, because I want you guys to see some of the things I'm finding. Like I said, this is pretty clean. This piece here was pretty stuck. It's supposed to be spring loaded. It's supposed to move like that, but it was stuck. So I actually just took I sprayed some PB Blaster on it, took my ball peen hammer and just tapped on it straight up and down. You don't want to hit it crooked or hit it hard, just tap it. And then I freed it up, so it should be good. That's just a result of something sitting for a long time. Now, somebody's been into this, because I was playing around with this. I cleaned it up, and it's like, this isn't closing all the way. What's going on here? Well, what happened, somebody, see if you can see that, which I think you can. There's a slotted screw there that's not there here. And usually they put them in and then they stake them because you don't want this backing out and running through your engine, because this is going to drop right in your intake manifold and run through your valve train and into your intake manifold and valve train, and can do some damage. Now, they are brass, but I noticed that somebody, I don't know why they did it and why they left it that way, but the bad part is it's not tight now, and this moves back and forth. Good news, I'm pretty sure the 120 and the 140 and the 165 horses all use the exact same carburetor. The major difference will be these main jets here being a bigger hole in them on a 165 versus a 130 or 120 or 140. And apparently these carburetors will flow enough air, but when you got a let's just call it a compressor. Your engine's just a good air compressor, right? When it's pulling more air in because of the bigger pistons or more pistons, it can pull more air through the same amount of CFM or more CFM, cubic feet per minute of air, through this two holes. But you need to add a little more fuel to the mixture so it doesn't lean out on you. Okie dokie. Well, I am ready to go. I've got to go, let's just call it, to my boneyard. And I'm pretty sure I have another one of these still on an intake manifold with a whole carburetor. And I'm going to go rob that off of it. And I'm not going to try to back the screws out because they've been staked and stuff. I'm going to see if I can just use a whole nother base here. And hopefully this configuration here is the same. Most likely it is. And then we'll get busy. These magnetic trays can be a little bit of a problem sometimes. And I say that from when you put something down, a spring like this, and it rolls, it sticks to the bottom, and you go, where's that spring? You can't find it? Don't forget to look underneath your trays first. All right, let me go see if I can rob that other part off the other manifold. Well, as good luck would have it, I did have another spare carburetor in my bone pile that was in pretty good shape. I robbed the bottom off of it. It has all the screws have been untampered with, which is nice. I soaked this one in some Berrymans to clean it up. As you can see, the difference between Berrymans and the ultrasonic cleaner is this brass plate here would have been just as nice as looking as this one is, but that's the chemical harshness that can provide that for you. I'm not against the chemical harshness, don't get me wrong. So I cleaned it up, the faces. It's ready for gaskets. I did put my two screws in, my idle air mixture screws, bottomed them out, backed them out, 1.5 turns. I'm going to set that aside in a spot that I won't knock it off on the floor, hopefully. My table's kind of crowded, but we need to consume some parts and slowly empty these trays. As a matter of fact, I can consolidate some trays here now. Let's just do that. So we've got all our pieces cleaned up, ready to go back together. We can start reassembling. The other thing you want to make sure, I've blown through every orifice, every hole. The most important one on this one, all of them are important, but the one I want to make sure is really clear is when I spray through this little groove right here. There's a little hole that goes this way. And when you plug this up top and bottom here, you'll get 2 jet streams going out like that. That's your accelerator pump. And the other ones you want to make sure are clear are these 2 up top. As long as all that's clear, you're in great shape. Now, before we can put this back in, we got to find 2 pieces, 3 pieces, 4 pieces, 3 pieces. Yeah, there's 3. We're going to go ahead and cut our carb kit bag open and start accessing the goodies inside it. Work instructions. Yep, we throw those aside. That was fun to have for a second. Woo-wee, there's a lot of gaskets. And you won't use a lot of them. Now, this one here has a little ball in it and a little spring and not another new little T. Interesting. I know it's possibly in here. There's the ball and the T right there. That's what I'm looking for first. What I need second is my new gasket. You're gonna have several of these gaskets in your kit that look like the right gasket. Like this one here, you think is the right gasket, but it's not, because it doesn't have those two little locating features there. This one also does not have the locating features there. This one does have the little locating feature in there to keep it lined up in the center. Plus, when you're looking down through here, it doesn't plug any holes anywhere. It's letting all the holes be open. That's important. So that's the one I want to use. We'll set the rest aside and we'll keep working our way forward from here. Now, the little ball. This ball that we took out of the old one is a specific diameter. It's 187.5. That's 3/16 diameter ball. We'll set that back in the tray. This one has a little ball and a little T in it, so I'm going to go after it and see what that has to tell us for size. And all I'm after right now is that little T and the ball. If that ball is 3/16 in diameter, being it's brand new, I'm going to use it. Was there anything wrong with the old one? Nope. Come on. 187.5. There we go. We're good. That ball gets dropped right down in here. Bloop. In that hole where the cross was located. Now, the other little thing we have is a spring. And there's a brand new spring in here and there's an old spring here. I'm not sure why I can't use the old spring, or this spring. It has plenty of everything we need to have. Come on, get in there. And then this little T goes back in here. Typically, I get it started with a little, either needle nose pliers or you get it to stick in some manner and it doesn't pop back out like it just did. But this is a very important part, and that's why I'm spending some time on it here, because if you don't get this right and the plunger right, your accelerator pump won't work right. And your boat will still accelerate, it will just have a huge dead spot. Because the accelerator pump is to make up for until the air in the engine starts sucking more air and more fuel down the venturis. So once I get it stuck like that, I'll take one of my little flat punches and just kind of and it's just got to be flush. You don't want to go below flush. You don't need to. Just make sure it's not sticking up and holding that gasket up. Once that's in place, you can go ahead and put this gasket in place. Just like that. And then slide this piece into place here. And you can put your 3 screws back in. Now mind you, 3 screws you're putting back in are 3 different lengths. I'm sorry, 2 different lengths. And it's important that this middle one have a little red gasket on it. These other 2 just have a lock washer on them. And in here I can see this other little red gasket. And it may not always be red, but it's gonna definitely be a gasket. Because that's got to seal up. The gasket on the bottom is sealing the bottom of this hole. This gasket on this screw here, bolt, slotted screw, is sealing the top of it up because that channel comes up through there and it's got to seal all that up to force those streams to be able to go that way and not leak around this. And believe you me, guys, I'm not a carburetor expert by any stretch of the imagination. I don't even pretend to be one, But I'm just sharing with you the stuff that I've learned on these carburetors and what has been working for me. And this last one I did for the 165 on the Cobalt works like a dream, provided you got a good fuel pump getting fuel to it. There we go. Those are snug down. That part is done. Now I want to work on the accelerator pump. And that'll be involving the top part here. But it also, I want to make sure everything's working like it should. So I'm going to go ahead and put the 2 main jets back in. Get that out of my way. And they go down here in the bottom. Hard to get a camera shot on it. So I'm just gonna do it and tell you I'm doing it. And if you get any resistance screwing these in, stop. Probably because you're cross-threading it. Because remember, you backed it out without any issue. It should go in without any issue. So I usually drop them in there, use my flat screwdriver bit to just kind of get things going. Now on the blueprint I witnessed, there was actually a gasket on the exploded view. And these, I haven't witnessed having the gasket on some of these main jets. So if you guys put gaskets underneath them, let me know. This one doesn't have it. Now this little power valve does have a little gasket, so we'll find a new one of those of that size and nature, which probably is somewhere right here. That'll go on there. I'm gonna go clean this up a little bit more with my wire wheel. That's a little better. Yeah, that gasket fits it perfectly. We're gonna drop it back down in here. Get my big blade screwdriver. Now I'm guessing they make a power valve tool that straddles that middle piece and just focuses on, you know, not compressing it while you're putting it in there. I don't have one. Somebody out there knows a part number for one. I haven't even Googled it. There. Perfect. All right, we've got that. We haven't forgot anything in there. That's good. We've got this I want to contend with next, which is the accelerator pump. Here's the bag with the accelerator pump and a metal washer. Empty bag, we're done. Not quite. Now me, I like to take this and just double check to make sure this is the right diameter, and it feels like it is. What you want to do is, there's a slot right here that goes all the way down. What that does is allow the bowl and everything to fill up with, you know, your gasoline's in here, and when that goes down, it gets past that slot, and that's where it does its last little and compresses that gas and makes it force it up through these nozzles. This appears to be the right one. We're going to reuse, they don't provide a new spring, so we're going to reuse the spring that came with it. All you got to do to get this off is pull this down and, whoops, see if we can get it slid off of here. Come on. There we go. Oh, I did that dumb. I need to pull that little thing off. What was I thinking? Now see which way this is coming through here and sticking out? You want to maintain that. All right, we're getting there. Just be patient with me. Okay, that's sticking out that side like that. Like that. And we can go ahead and put this little clippy thing back on. Controls the spring. There we go. Now we just need our little keeper that I destroyed there, but they give you a couple more. Where'd he go? I saw him. There they are right there. There's a couple more right there. We can slip that right on there like that and just give her a little squeezing. Don't have to get crazy with it. There you go. That's not coming off. That little bit of squeeze in there, it's not going anywhere. Now this guy will go in here and go squirt. Now this, you don't want to run it down in there dry. I was just test fitting it and making sure there's absolutely nothing else in there. It's clean as a whistle. Because you don't want anything ruining your seal here. Well, this is where I'm going to put a little bit of Marvel Mystery Oil down on my pinky here. And kind of, there we go. Now that should just go right down in there and whoop. Oh, perfect. It's gonna work perfect. And the reason I put some Mirrorless in there is because you don't want it to go in there dry. Give it a fighting chance, guys. Give it a fighting chance. All right, we didn't use that spring because we redid, you know, we did things. Now there's a second ball that wasn't in here. I don't know why it wasn't in here. This is gonna make a mess, but I gotta show you guys this if it works. I put some WD-40 down in there. Let's just see if we can see something come out of here when I push that down. See that? See those two streams that just shot out right there? I hope you saw that. That's exactly what it's supposed to do. Perfect. That works like it should. Now I have had a second check ball or something, but I am not seeing where it would go. This one just does not have it. Because there's a spring right down in here that helps push this back up. You know, you got several different things working for you spring wise, you know. That was to help it push it back up. So you need that spring in there. There was before on another one I did, there's a check ball. Where'd it go? Just saw it right here. It's another check ball, but it's a much smaller diameter. And maybe this particular model, there again, this model didn't use it. And it's a smaller one for sure. It's 154 thousandths diameter versus the 187.5. But normally I've seen it where it's dropped right down. I'm gonna add it. It's hard to see it. Golly. Stay ball. Haha. There is a ball in there. It's just stuck. Stuck. All right. We're gonna put that ball in there. I was wondering. Just had to get my Bright Eyes flashlight in there and see what's going on. That took a little bit of time, folks, but that hole that's down there that check ball is supposed to be in was plugged clear from this side all the way to the screen on the inside here. So what I did, I had these, got these like, I don't know if they're Babbitt or they're lead, or if anybody out there knows what those are, little plugs that are in here, you know, part of when they create these things. So what I did is I drilled it out. It's soft, it's like lead. It's really, really soft. So what this is okay, this is my redneck ingenuity here. This is my, you know, and I'm not saying redneck is a bad thing. Redneck is a good thing. I'm saying it in a positive manner because that's what I am. Rednecks, White Sox, and Blue Ribbon beer. I don't know. I don't drink beer, so I don't know. What I did is I took some lead, and I'm thinking I need a lead ball to tap down in there to plug that back up. And it's more of a, you know, that way it's a mechanical seal. Well, you can take a tire weight, an old style tire weight, none of this new stuff that they're putting out there now. And I cut some up of this stuff that I had. Now I have lead laying around because I have reloading bullets and stuff like that. But you cut yourself a little something like that, and I'm going to show you what I did. And I did a variety of sizes till I got one that was the right size that I could actually force down in there, and it kind of peened it out and made it fit. And it's as simple as putting a couple lead pieces on a piece of, it could be any kind of metal workbench, let's say, would be your best bet. But watch this. And just like that, you got yourself an assortment of round lead balls. Just like that. But see, I can measure those now, and I can keep playing around with it till I got one that had enough, what I'm going to call press fit or interference fit, that I could tap down in there. And what I did is I took my flat punch and I just supported this side over here very well and just gave her a nice little tap, tap, tap. And you're not going to have to tap it in very hard, guys. This is aluminum, this is lead, and if you wanted to, you could put a little red Loctite around it before you did that. Maybe that would help. But that's a little tech tip. Some of these carb kits come with some of these plugs because they expect you to pull some of them out and you can drive them back in there. I'm guessing I don't know what they look like. They're like a little lead rivet or what they are. But that's what I did to seal that bowl back up. Done and done. Ow, that's still hot, by the way. Dang, that burns your finger. Now the stuff that I drilled out of there, when I went through here and cleared that passage out, and I did it with a 7/64 drill bit, if that helps anybody at all. I went with a tinier drill bit through the middle, and then I went through a 7/64, which seemed to clean it out really well. And the stuff that came out of there, I tried using a little piece of welding wire and bend in there. That wasn't going to do it because that whole channel that goes from that hole to that hole, it was like drilling out wood. That's the consistency of the stuff that came out of there. So no amount of soaking, ultrasonic cleaning, maybe the harsh stuff might would have ate that out, but I wouldn't bet money on it because it was hard packed. Cool part now is I can go ahead and drop that ball down where it belongs. And now I can see it sitting in there all purty and clean. Don't lose it. That is an elusive creature. Stick it inside that gasket for a second. I'm going to go down through this way. The other channel that I didn't clean out, this vertical, I'm going to see if I can get some drill bits down there and just kind of hand drill it a little bit. Just trying to get that last little bit of debris out of there. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we're getting it. I'm going to go in here with a little power behind it. A little bit bigger. Beauty, Clark. Now we're cleaned out. That was a 11/64 drill bit. Now I can see some polished metal in there, which makes me feel real good about it. Now I want to double check my passage that squirts out here. So I'm going to go ahead and get me a paper towel. I'm going to take something that has basically the consistency of gasoline, like WD-40, you know, pretty light. When I kind of fill that pocket up. I'm going to take my plunger once again. It's nice and clean. And I want you guys to watch right here. I think you can see it. I'm right here. You're going to watch right below that screw head there and watch for the squirt there. Well, it didn't. Uh-oh. Oh, I know why. Duh. It worked before because that hole was plugged. Now that check ball's got to be in there. Just like that. Then with the spring in there. That's why it worked before, is because that check ball just let it come. The check ball will let it come back out. But when it's there, it can't come back out. But it can fill from the bottom up and do what it's supposed to do. Let me do that again. I'm telling you guys, I learn something every time I do something else on anything. Everything has... Now with that spring pushing down against that check ball, if it's doing what it's supposed to do... There you go, you see that? Let's do it again. That spring's holding that check ball down against that thing. If it wasn't there, it would just force this fluid to come out the other way. Beautiful. Beautiful stream coming out of there. It's doing exactly what it should do. I'm happy with that. That's the old crusty one that was in there. We're making headway. Junk parts over here in this corner. Good stuff still over here. Now that this is prepped and ready for the top to go back on, we need to go ahead and work on the top here. We're going to pull the float seat out. Take note, there is a gasket under here. And these definitely look a little different from one another. They're about the same. They're the same length overall, so it should work. This one has a little pilot on the end. And let's just see if this one actually screws down in there. Some of those ones that aren't Sierra or they're some off-brand, I've had horrible luck with those threads being the same pitch and everything, and they go in part way and they start to bind. Don't force it. If you force it, it's gonna have a bad day. All right, now we gotta find the gasket that fits this face, because some of the gaskets are blocked off, like this one, so you have to put them on before you put your float in. Let's see what this kit looks like. Usually they come with several of them. Looks like that's all the ones that look like that. Is that it? Boom shakalaka. So I'm kind of looking at what this one looks like. Yep. What you're looking for is every surface that it should seal off on. Now this one has a thing across here. It doesn't seal off on that. There's nothing across here it seals off on. So this one more closely aligns to what was in there, so that's what we're going to use. We'll set this one aside. So when you got this, let's see here. So here's our float. And this was, you know, I hope it don't leak. I'm pretty sure it don't leak, but because it did have, you know, it's been dry for a while. We'll go ahead and put this on. This typically would go up through this little slot here. You put it on the right way. I'm upside down here. Slide that through the slot. We'll guide that right down into there. Just like that. And we'll put our pin back in. And we'll look at that float and see. We're trying to make sure this float's sitting, that bottom should be kind of parallel. Not kind of parallel, but pretty much parallel there, which that one is. Just gonna give it a little tweak. There we go. So looking at it like this, that bottom half is float, you know, there's measurements on it that's just in that paperwork, but this will usually work pretty good, because basically you want to make sure it's not hitting here, because when that thing's coming to shut off the fuel, and it hits here first, the fuel won't stop pumping, and it's got pressure, and it'll just, you know, won't be good. It won't turn out right like you want it to. Okie doke. Now, we need to put the accelerator pump back in. You guys know which way this went? You guys got any memory on that? Now this does have a D shape to it here. It'll only go on this shaft one way and one way only. Plus it also will stop and not go any further once it hits round. So you're going to go in there something a little like this, because that's going to be standing up in here like that. Or could it be like this? Well, it can't be like that, because that would be, you know, wrong side ways up. So it's kind of pokey yoked a little bit. What I mean by that is it's kind of can only go one way. Plus the other thing you can look at too as witness marks is typically that set screw should be on that, nope. Set screw's opposite of the, you can see the little marks on here. So let's just see if we can sneak this back in. There, we got the accelerator pump back in place. And just as a double check, come on, that's just, you know, for my own peace of mind, I took a picture. When that's in there just like that, this hook is over here. Accelerator pump and stick, we got it. All right. So the accelerator pump's back in. Now the tricky of the trick. It's not tricky at all. But we've got to get some linkages in place, and it may not all go in place while it's all the way together. So I'm going to go ahead. This is the finagly part for me. I want to get that accelerator pump up in there where it belongs. That where it belongs. The float pin's got to be trapped. The The gasket's got to line up with screws. So basically that looks something like that. The accelerator pump should go. The spring should be doing its springy thing for you. All right. Now just for fun, I'm gonna put the one long screw in the middle here. That's it. That's just gonna hold me together for a minute until I sort out my linkages and get them all put where they belong. Because we still got the bottom plate to go on, right? Which has yet another linkage. So that's how everything's gonna sit. We got a screw that goes in there. That's one of them, this wide one. I'm gonna clean that up. We're going in and put our new gasket on here. We're gonna put our bottom plate back on. Now we've got this link. It's obviously trapped in here. It can't get out. And it's supposed to be around on the other side. Doggone it, I did it again. Oops, I did it again. When I put the bottom plate on, this got flipped over to the wrong side. All right, that's easy enough. Just back this off a little bit, give ourselves a little bit of play there, and get it back on the right side of things. Come on. There we go. And here's where your pictures come in handy, you know, just to remember which way things went and how it works and why and all that fun stuff. I'm gonna give this a good snug in here. Oh, I need my bigger screwdriver. There we go. Doesn't have to be crazy tight, but just tight enough. It should still move freely. Because this is the part that this will move around with your choke. So when this goes shut, this is where it is on your cam, where your idle cam is. You know, stuff like that. Okay, that's back on the right side. This goes back in here. It's like that. And then we get that little keeper. I saved it because it's a cute little bugger and it's a real nice one. Come on guys, stay with me. But now, throttle wise, that does that. And that makes the accelerator pump do its thing. This side's done and complete together. Now I feel I don't have to take any of this back apart. I'm gonna go ahead and put the rest of the screws. Now I took them out with the impact, but I don't put them back in with the impact. I'm gonna take this leftover tag off of here because that's just something that's gonna cut me. It's gonna cut me real good. Here again, nothing's tight. This allows the gasket to float around and just all these screws are just gonna help line things up just so sweet. Hey, look at there, I didn't lose any. Got all 12 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 8. Alright. Alright, top's tightened down, in good shape there. Getting close to the finish line. For sure. Now we need to put this housing back on. And it goes on right here. But it also has a gasket that fits this, so we gotta find that gasket in this pile. Come on, Mr. Gasket. I think it's right inside of this guy. There it is. It has a pilot right on here, so it kind of keeps things lined up for you. I'm gonna go ahead and lay this on its side. So gravity will work in my favor. And these were the two flathead machine screws that were inside these two pockets right here. There again, oh, come back here. I think that screwdriver was scared I was going to cross thread it, so it made me stop. But everything should go back together. You shouldn't have to fight any of these screws. None of them should be too tight, because you've actually cleaned up some stuff. So it actually should be an improvement. Once those are snugged up, we've got our little cute little piston assembly that's going to go back in there. And that's going to go in like this. Oh, dang. I do that every time. Now I have no idea which way this was in there. Now I like that pen facing up. I think that'll work just fine. Yeah. Not sure it matters, because once it's in there, that pen cannot fall out once it's in use. So we got that piston back in there just like that. And we got a little dink screw here. There it is. It goes right in the middle of that. Holds that in place. Now everything here should be floating free. Shouldn't be anything binding. It should be free floating. Now I didn't clean up this gasket surface. And now we put this little heat shield back in, and it's got a flat on it. You can't really screw that up. Just drop it back in there until it hits the bottom. This should still float freely, which is your choke, which it does. What this the heat shield has that heat riser tube that comes up from the intake manifold / exhaust manifold, comes up here, delivers heat into here. This bimetal spring will move, and as it heats up, it moves one direction. As it cools off, it moves the other direction. This, we need a gasket. Where's my gasket? I saw it earlier. Dun, 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 dun. There it is. New gasket right there. Oh, it fits so nice. And you're going to take this thing here should hook. When you stick it in this way, you rotate it till it hooks. And I'll show you what it'll do. Now I don't have any of the keeper screws on it or anything right now. But right now, this is open. And with no clamps on it, I'm going to rotate it till you see that. See how it's starting to move? That's because that's grabbing it. And right where it's shut, that's where I want it to be. That's all the choke I should need. Now these keepers have a little curve to them. They curve down. And you want to put them in there because they grab on just this little tiniest of a lip out here and hold it in place. And if you go to adjust your choke down the road here, you'll want to back these off so these are actually almost loose as a goose. So these fingers have lost all their tension, so that you can stick a screwdriver in here and rotate it. And we'll test the choke here in just a minute. And so far this method has worked for me 100% of the time on all the Mercruisers that I've been playing with, and these Rochester. It's not Rochester, there's no D in it, Rochester. Rochester. Like rah rah, sis boom ba, I don't know. I really like these little 2 jets. I don't know how everybody else feels about them. You know, once you get to know them a little bit, they're not complicated at all. Basically, you got your choke here that you adjust, and it usually helps with your cold starting because, yeah, it's choke. And it's an automatic choke, but it's not an electronic. It's fully mechanical. Electric chokes, you know, need electricity. These don't. Now, as you can see here, That just barely. So picture it when you gave this thing, let's just say this was right here. The throttle was holding it. When you last shut it off, that's what it's doing. You're going to give it one throttle squirt, which is going to do this. And then it's also going to do what else? It's going to activate this accelerator pump, and it's going to choke it and shoot raw fuel in there. So it's going to really richen up the situation and improve the opportunities for it to fire as quickly as possible. Once you've got it adjusted where you want, just don't get crazy, because with spring tension on here, it actually acts as like a lock washer too. So I'm just bringing these down to they're just snug right there. Done. All that's left here is we got another little doohickey with a gasket here. We're going to put the old fuel thing back on. I can actually unscrew this out of here and put the right fitting on it when I'm ready to. This had a gasket that went on this side of life, and lo and behold, there's a brand new one right here. So that goes toward this side. Now I'm going to go ahead and blow it out because it's still a little dirty. And the nice thing about this screen, you can buy these still on marineengine.com. These screens help keep just keeps the garbage out of your carburetor that can plug up a jet and cause it not to run properly. So we can put that in there just like that. The spring goes in here next because that spring keeps that filter pushed up tight against the seal. Then we can just assemble this. And I got my handy dandy short and 1-inch wrench that I can just give her a little snugging. What's left? Nothing. Ha 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 ha. I think we're all done. I'm looking through the parts here. All the parts are the parts we should have left over, and none that we shouldn't. Last thing we got to determine is what gasket goes down here. Looks like that one would work. It's like it'll seal off everything it's supposed to seal off, so we'll keep that gasket with it. They send a couple of base gaskets. I'm not so sure what's different between them. Yeah, that one doesn't have the right shape here. As you can see, they did make a bunch of different bases, different styles. Quite frankly, there's no reason why that one wouldn't work even better. Don't need to have this hole through here. It doesn't do anything from side to side other than let the stud come up through it so you can tighten it down. That's what that one will do. And I got a spare. You know, that way you can use either one of these at that point in time, right? Well, that's it on the old Rochester 2-jet. This thing is ready for the gasket to go back on the intake manifold, put the 4 bolts back in, hook the throttle linkage up, hook this has got the vent tube coming out of the valve cover. That's it. Woo! Then we'll put the heat riser tube on, and we're ready to see if the existing pump will pump fuel or not. Now, chances are that could be the original fuel pump, just the exact same problem I had on my Cobalt. But rest assured, I bought 2 pumps when I bought the pumps for my Cobalt. So the good chances when I get that out of there, once I make sure it runs and pumps and does everything, I'll probably put a new fuel pump on there, period. Because they're not that expensive, and why wouldn't you? Next steps is we're going to bolt that back on like I just said, and then we're going to start checking fuel delivery, because I'm just going to deliver fuel straight from the fuel pump that's on the boat. Well, without further ado, or my GoPro shuts off from heat again. I have a fan on it, but I had to turn it on high now. I'm worried about when I go outside, but we'll deal with that. I will get you guys the footage, I promise. I'm going to take all my extra gaskets, put them in a little Ziploc. I like to hang on to those in case I, have a backup for something. And let's get out there and get that fuel pump and stuff checked out. Get this mounted back on the Mercruiser 165, baby. I'm excited to hear this thing pop off. All right, we're back out here on the Rinker. We got the carburetor rebuilt, as you saw earlier in this video, or right before this segment. Oh no, come on. Definitely gonna have to scrape the gasket on the surface here. Okay, what this is telling me is this can't even draw fuel. This type of pump should be able to draw fuel, and it's not currently doing that. I'm running it through a filter here in case there's anything coming out of this pump I don't want to get into my new carburetor rebuild. And I'm getting a big fat nothing. It can't even pump up from, normally this would pull from a gas tank on the floorboard up into here and then up to a carburetor. But as you can see, it won't even go past. It's not strong enough to go past that. Now, I know what you guys were thinking. There ain't no way he's got a fuel pump on hand. Well, hate to disappoint you, but I do. Because I actually bought 2 of them whenever the Cobalt had the fuel pump issue. I had bought 2 when I got back home that day ordered them that day I got back from the river. And here we are. I haven't put the one in the Cobalt yet, and I also have this one. So let's get in here and see if we can make it pump some fuel. Because once I get the fuel delivery system taken care of, we'll go straight to spark. And if we got spark, I'll get spark. One way or another, we'll get spark, but we'll see if we can make it run. Oh, she's full of oil, so she's pumping. I'm getting that out of my way so I can at least get my fingers on this doggone thing. There we go. We'll put that there. This says in. Just for fun, we'll make sure this end's in the fuel, which I'm pretty sure it is because I was just siphoning it, no problem. Yeah, that's well into the fuel. All right. Let's see if this pump does anything better or different. Hopefully better. But also working would be different, right? Yep. All right, back on hook the negative battery terminal back up. Hit the trigger, see what happens. Oh yeah. Watch this. I just saw it pulling. There, look at that. Wow, look at that. Bam, 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 bam. Lots of pressure there now. We like that. Okay. We're on the right track. I knew this pump should have siphoned from the can, and it did. So we're going to go ahead and tighten this back down so we don't have gas spraying everywhere when things start to take off on, when we're in a running state. Locked and loaded. In from there. And I don't really need a whole lot here because this is going to be pulling, so there's no pressure there. But on this end, get rid of the short piece of hose. We'll put that right here. All right, now we've got this thing. It should pump all the way to the carburetor here. Let's watch and see. Yeah, look at that. All right, we had to quit last night because we had, we had some dirty points, and we need to clean them up, and I was getting tired, and now I'm ready to reinstall these points back in here and get this show back on the road. Now what I did with the clean the points, and this is all you should ever do to clean them, is I took some fine wet dry sandpaper and I used the own spring tension that's here and just had that amount of pressure on it, just drug it back and forth till I got both surfaces nice and shiny, which they look pretty good now. And so I'm going to put this screw back in and we'll be close to seeing if we got some spark. Oh, we left the key on but the battery disconnected, so we should be able to test for spark once we put the battery back on. Oh no, 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 no. Ooh, that's nasty. Okay, at least I got it there close enough that I can move it back and forth with just the advanced part. I can make sure I'm on the top of the lobe. Now, this next piece of information I want to share with you guys is vital and free to you if you ask me for it. You just got to email me and I will send you this. It's a copy of a page out of my original book out of my 1976 Starcraft. Applies to all these 120, 140, and 165 horse engines. The 153 cubic inch, 181 cubic inch, and the 250 cubic inch. So I've got a lot of neat information here. Bore, stroke, compression ratio, quarts. You know, the 140 and the 165 take 5 quarts. The 120 takes 4 quarts. Point dwell, spark plug type, ACR43T. Plug gap, 35 thousandths. Timing idle RPM at idle RPM, 6 degrees before top dead center. The 120 is 8 degrees. Maximum wide open throttle, 39 to 4300. Idle RPM, 5 to 600. Pretty cool stuff. Lots of neat information there. Point gap, 22 thousandths. On the 165, it's only 16 thousandths. So, and on this other side here, it's got some other reserve capacity, battery, alternator rating, 42 amps, you know. And then there again, the real important one here, firing order. So, I've got a copy of that scanned in. If you guys want me to send you a copy, go into my description. My email's in there at the bottom of it. And you can send me a copy or send me an email. Say, hey, send me that page 3, I think it's called, out of the manual. And that's what I'll send you. A copy of that back to you. All right. So now that we know that the points gap needs to be 16 thousandths. Let's see what we got here for feeler gauges. 14, 15, 14, 16, bango, right there. Now we want to make sure there's no oil or grease on our feeler gauge just because we just cleaned these. And right now I'm on the top of the lobe and I don't see any gap, so I'm going to squeeze this in until there's a gap. Boy, watching this turnover yesterday, I bet you that gap wasn't near enough. We'll start right there. I'll lock that down. I'm going to unhook the battery so I don't shock myself. And then these wires come back in and they pinch in behind the little clip here. Now I'm going to roll it over and see if I can see some arcing in there. Ideally, I'll see some arcing. And obviously you don't want to see a lot of arcing because that would burn up your points. So I got a nice clean surface. I could probably hear it snappity snap if I open it. Or not. Oh, probably not. Yeah, everything's hooked up. Everything seems to be working. I want to put the rotor back on here. So rotor and cap are actually in pretty good shape. This fits pretty loose on there. But the spring tension holds everything in place. And there again, I haven't tested the coil yet to see if, or not the coil, well, the coil and or the condenser to see if they're any good. I'm going to double check my firing order here. It's on the back of this sheet here, right here. So, number 1 is supposed to be right here. Which that one's number 1. The next one to the right should be number 5. So this should go back to number 5, and it does. The next one is 3. Yep. The next one is 6, which is 6. The next one is 2. And the one after that is got to be last but not least 4. So this one should go to number 4. And it does. So the firing order is right according to what we have here. Now, just for fun, I'm going to throw my little spark checker on here and see if we get anything. Put this on here. I'll plug this into here. See if we see any light. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh my goodness, that scared the tar out of me. That thing popped off and ran. It just popped. Scared the tar out of me. Oh my goodness, man alive. Well, that was a beautiful sound, I'll tell you that. Wowee. Okay, I didn't want it to do that without any water on the, you know, any water on the outdrive, and the outdrive's also not down, which puts a lot of stress on that. That's just awesome, guys. I'm glad I caught that on video. Whew. All right, now my next plan is to change this oil because I didn't want to pump any more through this than necessary. So we're going to go ahead and put on a new filter, which I got right here, and we're going to put some. That's only 1 gallon. That's only 4 quarts. Ugh. I got to get some more of that. I got more. Well, this one takes 5. And here we are. I'll go ahead and take this frame off of here. Try not to get oil all over everything. I'm letting it just drain in the bottom of the boat, and I got a catch pan on the back of the outside the boat, just to keep it simple. And then we'll drain the pan right into the boat as well. Then I'll clean up that mess afterwards. I'm going to go ahead and dump a little oil into the filter. So I want to start this off with some fresh, good go-go juice. Kind of goes to show, I guess. Call it luck, but you got the fuel delivery system doing what it's supposed to do, and we got the point gap set. Now the only thing we don't have set is I did not check for top dead center to see if the timing was right, but I also didn't disturb it. We will, once it's warmed up and idling, I will check the top dead, or check the timing to make sure it's right. We're also going to pull this valve cover off, and we're going to check the valve lash, but I'm not so sure I'm going to do that in this video, because if I don't hear any noise, I'm going to assume everything's okay at that point. Yeah, that oil coming out of there is way too liquidy. Oh, it smells something fierce, full of gas. So obviously, you know, this has been trying to be started for a while. All that gas and stuff went right on down to the crankcase, and you know, it was full but not over full, which was good. Use GM 6041 M quality MS oil. That's what it says right on the dipper stick. I'm hoping all the gauges on the dash work pretty well. I'd like to see the oil pressure. I'd like to be able to watch the temperature, see if that's all working. It's got a nice little gauge cluster. She's still draining. I may just run this once, drain it again, but I think we can run it for a while. As soon as I put fresh oil in, it's going to thin what's left in there down so much it won't make any difference. Well, the paint on this engine is just, it's in immaculate condition. I mean, my goodness. This thing can't have too many hours on it, I wouldn't think. I thought that heater hose is already getting warm, but then I realized that's the sun shining on it. Well, I guess if this thing is so anxious to run, I've got water on it now. I got oil in it. I got gas going to it. Let's see what it does. Wow. You can see the choke closed right now. Pumping fuel like a champ. Wow, I'm impressed. Well, at the idle, she's pulling 38 pounds of oil pressure. And the tachometer is idling at about 650 RPM. Got a lot of water dumping out the other side though. I'm having to go a little old school here with the camera. I've got no microphone on it and trying to get you guys an angle so you can see and hear what's going on. Now, as you can see, this is where the old frost plug was, and for some reason it's just not there. So I measured the hole, came up with the right diameter, went to my local Napa and bought the right size, and then now what I'm going to do is take some 220 wet dry sandpaper. I'm going to go in here and just see if I can, you know, just get this cleaned out, get rid of all the nastiness in the hole. Yeah, see, that's going to start. That stands a snowball's chance of actually working. That other one wasn't going to go in without cracking the block, because you're going to have to beat it into submission, and it ain't going to do what it's supposed to do. So let's get back to the good stuff here. We're going to go ahead and put our TV around this whole thing again. Get my hands all messy again. What happened here? Alright, kind of not a real good shot of it, but right here, this looks like it has some sort of thread remains in there, but not much of anything, and it's way, way smaller than 1/4 inch and way, way bigger than, as we talked about in the shop there. Where's my calipers? There they are. So I want to get a measurement on this hole. See what I'm dealing with here. Looks like about, can't probably see that, it's 0.396. Yeah, about 390, 396, somewhere in there. All right, I gotta go look at some tap drill sizes because I think I can just run a tap up in there and then use a bolt and just use the O-ring around the bolt and call that good. Well, the good news is I was able, bad news is my microphone died, but hopefully, we'll see if we got any sound on this, but I found a tap and was able to clean those threads up, and now just got to get me a stubby 7/16 14 bolt. All right, it's taken me a minute, let's call it a week and a half, since I fired this thing up. Maybe a week, it's been a week. It was last weekend, yeah. Fired this thing up, and then I discovered the frost plug leak, and then the other, plug missing. So I don't know if you can see this here. I took a 7/16 14 bolt, cut me an O-ring groove in it, shortened it up, was an 1.5 inch bolt, to make me a plug, stick in that exhaust manifold to keep that from leaking. So all I gotta do is put this in, turn the water on. I did check the oil after the little bit I did run it, and sure enough, the oil was full and perfect. And we're gonna run it now and hopefully bring it up to temperature. And let's just cycle this thing for a minute. We're gonna check the voltage coming out of the alternator to see if we got 12 volts plus, something to charge the battery, keep the battery charged. That'll test the alternator. And we're also going to, what else was I gonna do? I guess just the alternator check. And then we'll watch the gauges. I want to see if it comes up to temperature. We're going to watch the oil pressure. And we're pretty much close to wrapping this engine up as far as getting it what I would call pull out of the boat ready and ready to drop into another boat. Obviously, we're going to redo the fuel lines when we do that. But so far, so good. I mean, this thing's sweet. I'm going to put the sound, I'm going to put the picture up here. And I'll put the sound back here so we can hear a cold start to see what she's gonna, just let's see what this sounds like. I'm kind of excited. All right, that's an extreme close-up, sorry about that. I think I'm gonna put that right there. I fired right up like a champ. The starter barely engaged. Probably could be idled up just a touch. running real good. We're idling at about 650, 700 RPM. Oil pressure's running right at 40 there at an idle. Real good. Real good. You guys keep seeing me check. I'm feeling the manifold here. I'm just making sure it's staying cold, and it is. It means we got good water flow. Keeping things cool. You should be able to put your hand on most of this stuff. Looks like we're coming up to temperature really well. We'll show you the gauges. So you see our temperature gauge is staying right there. It's up in the green. It's good. We've got, looks like it's charging. And we got just over 40, or just under 40 there, about 38. And here's our idle. Let's go ahead and switch it off. Fire it back up. Man, that thing is just so sweet and right. It's not even funny. We got 14.1 volts at the alternator. At a little bit of a high idle. 14.1 at an idle, so that's good news. Alternator's alternating. The nice thing about these old engines, if your alternator did go out, they will run a long time on a battery because there's not a lot of electronic draw on these whatsoever, other than the ignition system, and that's it. There's no blow-by coming out of here at all. There's just no pressure there at all. Nice. All right, folks, we got ourselves a runner. Voltage checks out good on the alternator. The temperature gauge is holding right steady. It's been running for a while. This video is 28 minutes. It's probably been running for 15 minutes of it. You can see the timer on the thing, but you're not going to have to spend the whole 28 minutes with me there. But yeah, she's a good solid runner. I just tried to shift it into forward. It doesn't go into forward. It does go into reverse, but I also don't know if the shift cables are out of whack, so we won't know if we got us a good one just yet. But we'll have to do some more testing on that. Well, that's as far as I'm going to take you on this video. On the next video, we might do some valve adjustments. I'm going to show you some things in the valve train, and then we'll get busy once we do that and put a new valve cover gasket on. And I think the water pump's leaking on the front of the motor because I kept seeing a little splash of water here and there. So guarantee it's not any good. It's been around a while. So we'll get us a new water pump put on it, and probably do that maybe next video too. I'll see if I can get me a water pump on hand, you know, in hand, so I can get that put on, show you how to replace that, and go from there. I hope you guys enjoy this video. I know it's a long one. I want to give a shout out to K6 Outdoors. He's the one that helped me with some of my camera settings this past week. And I got some GoPro updates that may help it keep from overheating. Plus I changed the settings on it that he showed me to go for the longer battery life, still good picture quality. And that way I don't overheat as often, because he's got a Hero 11 as well. And it doesn't seem to overheat as much. I was like this close to pulling the trigger on a different camera, but I didn't. We're gonna give this a whirl. Now, this morning's not a good test. It's only 56 degrees out, so it's a beautiful morning right now. But yeah, we had a good time here. I'm excited I got a motor running. Now the real work begins. I gotta figure out how to get this big old heavy pig out of this boat. I'm not so sure my cherry picker goes quite high enough to clear this. Hey buddy, there's Oliver. How you doing? How you doing, buddy? Well, good boy. So, my wife just let the pups out. It's time for their morning run around the yard. And he's eating something. All right, folks. I hope you enjoyed this. This is Michael saying, if it ain't broke, fix it till it is. We'll see you on the next video. Love y'all. And have a good one.